Dragon Quest is the original JRPG, but for reasons we won't get into in this video, it never got the recognition in the West that it deserved. It's always lived in the shadow of its own knockoff. The only reason I bought Dragon Quest VIII for the PS2 was because it came with a demo for Final Fantasy XII. I played that demo more than I did the game I actually bought. I'm ashamed of my younger self. We live in a world where the knockoff of cinnamon toasters are praised more than the real Cinnamon Toast Crunch. We live in a world where people think Michael Jackson did a cover of Alien Ant Farm's Smooth Criminal. We live in a world where people say Final Fantasy is the original JRPG. This video isn't about Dragon Warrior for the NES though, nor is it about any Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy game for the NES. While the early days of Dragon Quest series laid the ever-important foundation of the JRPG genre, that house didn't truly take shape until 1992's Dragon Quest V. And this is where we get into the thesis of this retrospective. Dragon Quest V is every JRPG. Everything you ever loved, hated, tolerated, or even noticed in a JRPG is in Dragon Quest V. Everything that is JRPG is from Dragon Quest V. Hyperbolic to say the least, though I do think there's at least some truth to this. Had this game released in the West in the early 90s on the Super Nintendo, it's doubtless that anyone who's ever enjoyed a Final Fantasy would know its name and sing its praises, right in line with Final Fantasy VI or VII. Sure, Dragon Quest V is praised by online communities around JRPGs, but your college roommate played Final Fantasy VI, VII, VIII, IX, or X. If your college roommate played any Dragon Warrior or Dragon Quest, you should call them and thank them for the privilege of having had a totally rad roommate, such as themselves. I'm not joking, I'll wait. While this all sounds like high praise, and in many ways it is, I truly meant it when I said Dragon Quest V is every JRPG, warts and all. While it deserves a mountain of praise for everything it is and everything it's done, it isn't all green fields and raindrops. Because if Dragon Quest V is every JRPG, that means it's the bad ones too. But we'll get there in time. Dragon Quest V follows its hero through childhood all the way to adulthood. In my case, I named our hero Klaz. I'll exclusively refer to the Dragon Quest V hero as Klaz through both the remainder of this video and my life as a whole. I'm not just saying this as a joke either, I truly mean it, and I think there's some meaning behind this. See, I chose the name for the hero randomly just by picking out letters that sounded fun, and through the story of the game, I watched him grow and form bonds and saw his entire journey. When I play any game that lets me pick a name, I just pick something that makes me laugh. I forget a lot of them, and in all cases, I just call the character by their canonical name. While I loved Persona 4, and that game truly means something to me in a way that I don't think I'll ever share on this channel, I don't call the protagonist Larry Jr., and yes, that is what I named him. I call him Yu Narukami, because that's his name. And in Dragon Quest V, the hero's name is Klaz. I have trouble articulating why this is and why this distinction matters so much to me. There's something magical that Dragon Quest V does with its hero that I don't quite understand. I don't think the writing of this game is particularly impressive, though I'll get into more of that later. You don't even really get much choice over who Klaz is and what he does. He's the hero, he always does the most heroic thing. But there is something about watching his journey that connects you to him. There's something intangible there that you don't often see. I don't mean to say that Dragon Quest V is unique in this way. There are many games with characters who you connect with very deeply. What I mean to say is that there are a lot fewer in 1992. When thinking about a game, I think it's important you split your opinion in two pieces. The first is simply just how you feel. Did you enjoy your experience? Would you want to do it again? Would you recommend it to others? How does it compare to other games you've played? The second is just as important though. What did this game do? How does it compare to others at the time? What's its legacy? It's in this way that I think Dragon Quest V truly shines. I don't mean to say it was truly innovative, though it did literally create the monster-catching genre 4 years before Pokemon. What I mean is that when you compare Dragon Quest V to titles at the time, it's hard not to be amazed. It's at this point, though, that I must admit I didn't play Dragon Quest V when it released in 1992. Not only was it not released in America until the DS remake in 2009, but I myself wasn't even released in America until 1995. The DS remake from 2009 is the one I played. While I generally prefer to play the original release of games when critiquing them over their remakes, in this instance the DS version was the only one released in America, so I wasn't left with much choice unless I wanted to fall into the rabbit hole that is fan translations. But gee, that would only happen if I planned to do a retrospective on a game like Fire Emblem of Genealogy of the Holy War, in which I had no other options. It's not like I'm going to do that anytime soon. I'm saying all this to recognize that there may be ways in which I praise the game for doing things in 1992 when it in fact only did them in 2009. To my knowledge, the DS remake is extremely faithful, updating only the graphics, adding a third love interest and an additional party member slot, which actually originated in the PS2 remake, which also didn't release in America. This is all just to say that I think the DS remake is a fair way to judge the game. With that tangent out of the way, let's begin with the story of Dragon Quest V. The game opens with the birth of Klaz, who seems to be the son of a queen and king, foreshadowing reveals yet to come. After this, Klaz is awoken by his father, Pankraz, and his journey truly begins. During his childhood, Klaz is forced to go where his father goes and do what his father wants. In travel, Pankraz does most of the damage and fighting, while Klaz contributes insignificantly. After each battle, Pankraz fully heals Klaz to ensure he's never in any real danger. Some players may resent Pankraz for babying Klaz and controlling everything he does. I actually grew to really appreciate him, though. He was always out there watching for Klaz. He let him wander on his own and participate in battle, but he always kept him safe. I also really appreciated this entire opening as a whole. While controlling Klaz, we slowly gained more and more autonomy. At first, we couldn't leave town without our father. The best we could do was explore a small cave within the town. Each day, our father would take a raft deeper into the cave to areas we couldn't see while we were left stuck at the entrance. We wanted to know what was further in. What was he doing? Where was he going? This moment alone is something somewhat special. A moment where, without any written word, we feel completely in sync with Klaz. We know he wants to know what's down the stream. We want to know too. Not because we're playing a role or trying to get in the mind of the hero, but because what Klaz wants is just genuinely the same thing that we want. With time, we'll both get our wish. Klaz likely knows this just the same as we ourselves know. We're going to grow up and see what's in that cave. Maybe our dad will take us in once we get a bit older. Maybe we'll go in alone. Personally, I wish we could have gone in with Pankraz. It's not long before we gain more control, though. No, not deeper into that cave, an adventure on our own, not just following our father. We go to a neighboring town and meet another kid our age, Bianca. We see that mean kids are bullying a cat. They tell us they'll only stop bullying the cat if we clear out the ghosts from a nearby haunted castle. We'd heard rumors of this castle before. Secretly, we'd already wanted to go. As a player, I ignored the ridiculousness of this request because it was something I'd already wanted. I heard of an abandoned castle with ghosts and I thought, I want to go ghost busting. I didn't think, why don't we get an adult to tell these kids to stop? Why do they even want ghosts cleared out of the mansion? Why do we have to do what they say? I didn't care. I wanted to beat up the ghosts already. Thinking back, this is the moment I actually became Klaz. Klaz wanted the bullies to stop beating up the cat. He also wanted to be an adventurer like his dad. He wanted this not just to prove himself, but also because it sounded cool. His dad had a cold and is stuck in bed for a few days. It's the perfect excuse. Sneak out of town with Bianca in the dead of night. Go to the abandoned castle. Defeat the ghosts. Save the cat. Become my own man. This is the moment in the game where the world first opens up to us. We can leave the town, albeit only at night, and go wherever we want, albeit the world map is far from fully open at this point. But that doesn't matter to us. We only want to go to the ghost castle. This is the first proper dungeon of the game. We explore this castle and have a somewhat self-contained adventure. At the end of it, there's a boss fight with an evil spirit. This is the first time I hit a roadblock with a boss and was forced to grind for levels. It only happened one other time. I view both times as a failing. Whether that failure lies with me or with the game is up to debate, and I'm not even fully sure myself, but it's a failure nonetheless. After beating the boss, you get a gift of a gold orb whose use is not yet known. You begin to speculate about what its use is and when it'll come up. Through some magic, by the time you actually learn the use of the gold orb, you forgot it even existed. I'll talk on this more later in detail, but this is what I view as the real magic of Dragon Quest, and something that defines the series more than even its title as the genre definer. Dragon Quest has a way of showing you a thing, establishing a clear trope with which you are intimately familiar with and have grown to fully expect, and yet somehow still surprise you with it. It's also at this point that I want to encourage you to play Dragon Quest V if you haven't already. I've yet to spoil anything of real substance. That won't be true by the end of this video. If you've yet to experience this game and what I've said has convinced you at all, I wholeheartedly encourage you to do so. With that said, I'll only allow you to click off this video for the sake of not being spoiled if the very next thing you do after clicking off this video is actually go and play Dragon Quest V. Don't click off this video saying I'm going to play it at some point, I don't want to be spoiled, and then just click on another video. Let me clue you in on something. You aren't going to play it at some point. It's been 13 years. It's been 30 years if you can read Japanese. You've had the time. If you haven't yet, you won't later. If you think I'm wrong, that's fine, maybe you're the exception. To most of you, I assure you I'm not mistaken though. I've been you. I am you. If you won't give this game the decency of having 30 hours of your life, at least give it the decency to finish out this story so you can mourn that which you've not yet seen. After defeating the boss, we leave the castle to return to the town our father's been at, laying sick in bed. The mean children acquiesce and leave the cat alone. The cat is actually a saber cat, just a cub now, but in time he'll grow. If you haven't played Dragon Quest V, your favorite Dragon Quest monster is a slime. If you have played Dragon Quest V, your favorite Dragon Quest monster is a saber cat. I named mine Punk. Our celebration is cut short as our father is recovered and is ready to leave. Bianca makes us take Punk with us since her mom wouldn't want a saber cat in her home. Our father lets us take the cat. We're overjoyed. We say goodbye to Bianca and leave with our father and Punk. When we leave the town, our father controls where we go, dominates in all the fights, and heals us afterwards. It feels different. Maybe it's more demeaning. We just cleared an entire dungeon by ourselves. Punk's here fighting in battle with us too. We don't need you, Dad. For me, it felt oddly comforting. The dungeon was actually kind of hard. I got knocked out many times and woke back up in town. Sure, I could probably handle myself in battle now, but I don't have to. I'm safe. Pankraz will make every enemy a piece of cake. Pankraz will heal me after every battle. My dad's protecting me. It's now that we head to a nearby castle. No, not the abandoned one, the populated one. The one where the king sits. You might recall the opening scene where we see Klaz's birth. We still think Pankraz is a king. From how others speak about him, we know he's important. There's something about him we don't know. You might think the castle we saw in the opening scene is the same one we're going to now. I know I did. I was wrong. When we get to the castle, we're still not really sure why we're going there. Pankraz and the king seem to be on familiar terms. We explore the castle while our dad talks to the king. We meet the prince set to inherit the throne, Harry. Everyone says he's a brat. He's kind of a brat to us, too. Everyone says his brother should be king. Even his stepmother. Maybe that has something to do with why he's such a brat. Pankraz is here to protect Harry. Immediately, he's kidnapped. Pankraz chases after him. You follow after, but Pankraz doesn't stop to make sure you're behind him. He chases after Harry's kidnappers, unsure if you're following behind or staying back in town. Maybe this is negligence. I think it's trust. For a moment there, I genuinely got confused. I looked around town wondering where Pankraz was. I couldn't find him. I had nothing to go off of other than the direction of the cave these kidnappers likely took Harry to. I realized this confusion was deliberate. I was Klaz. Klaz always had his dad to watch after him and tell him where to go. Klaz stood in town and looked around wondering where his dad went. When he walked out of town, he expected to see his dad and have him lead him to his destination. Or maybe someone would stop him before he even got out of town. There had to be an adult that would tell him what to do, but Klaz walked out of town. No one stopped him. His dad was nowhere to be seen. Even as Klaz walked to his destination, he wondered to himself, should I be going here? Is this the right path? Is my dad waiting for me somewhere else, and I'm just running off into danger for no reason? It's in this moment that Klaz became a hero. He realized it didn't matter where his dad was. He knew where Harry was, and Harry needed help. So he went. I was Klaz. We go through the bandits' hideout and reunite with our dad. We find Harry. Monsters attack, and our father tells us to run away while he handles them. We listen. We run to the exit, but are stopped by an evil wizard named Lodja. We stand no chance against him. Pankraz walks in to see Klaz, Harry, and Punk barely conscious on the ground. He recognizes the wizard. The wizard recognizes him. Pankraz fights off the wizard's goon, but the wizard stops him. He holds Klaz and threatens to kill him if Pankraz continues to fight. Pankraz stops. The wizard's goons don't. We watch as Pankraz dies before us. The wizard has his goons release Punk to the wild. Klaz and Harry are sold to slavery. 10 years pass. Going into this game, I knew there was going to be a time skip. I knew that we would follow the hero from childhood to adulthood. I had minor bits spoiled for me here and there. I didn't predict this moment, though. Many times throughout the opening, I thought, oh, here we'll pause and we'll have a time skip. Our dad will train us and we'll skip through several years before the adventure continues. It's very tropey to kill off the protagonist's dad. I still didn't think it would happen. Maybe I just didn't want it to happen. I actually really liked Pankraz. I could see how much he cared for Klaz. I felt safe when I was with him. And I realized in that moment I wouldn't feel safe ever again. In this moment I was Klaz, and I watched as my childhood died. But Dragon Quest V doesn't stop just there. The cat I saved, named, and grew to love was ripped away from me. This was meaner than I thought it would be. I thought this was going to be a fun adventure. Klaz is sold into slavery. I thought this was going to be a fun adventure. 10 years pass. While the opening of the game is very linear, after the time skip, things start to open up a bit more, slowly but surely. As things open up more, I'm probably going to focus less on telling you about Klaz's story and more about mine, my experience with the game. This is because as the game opened up more, I began to feel less connected with it, slowly but surely. Some of this is just personal preference, and some of it I'll criticize the game for. Rest assured that there were still moments throughout the entire game that intrigued me and kept me interested right to the very end. I'm getting ahead of myself, though. Klaz and Harry break out of slavery soon after we regain control. One of the guards had a sister who was taken into slavery. Klaz and Harry stopped the other guards when they were beating her. Her brother helped us escape as thanks, and to ensure his sister's safety. We take the sister, Maria, to a temple where she becomes a priestess. We return to our hometown and find it burnt to the ground. Pankraz was tasked with protecting Harry. Pankraz failed. The king didn't appreciate this. All that's left are a couple of buildings and the raft Pankraz would take where we couldn't follow him. Klaz and Harry can go now, though. Harry's matured over the years. He attributes his maturity to Pankraz. Pankraz saved Harry's life and yet was blamed for his death. Pankraz's life was a tragic one. Harry couldn't help but feel guilt on his shoulders. We took the raft down the stream. As sad as it was to go down the stream without Pankraz, Claus is happy to have Harry by his side. At the base of the cave, we find a little hideout Pankraz has made. He left Claus a note. We learned Pankraz's mission. His wife, Claus's mother, was taken by an evil wizard. The only one who can save her is a legendary hero. The legendary hero is the only one who can wield the Zenithian equipment, a legendary sword and set of armor. Pankraz found the sword and was looking for the rest of the armor. He was looking for the hero, to save his wife, to save Claus's mother. Prior to this moment, we'd heard of a legendary hero. This isn't news to us. Having played many JRPGs and knowing the tropes of the genre, I was all but certain Claus was the legendary hero. He would equip the legendary sword, find the rest of the equipment, and save his mother. I feel safe in saying I doubt I was alone in seeing this storyline. Claus picks up the sword by his father's note. He can't equip it. Wait, what? That's right. First thing I did was try to equip Claus with the legendary sword. I couldn't. He wasn't the legendary hero. Claus being the legendary hero was in my mind a certainty. I mean, in every Dragon Quest game, the protagonist is called the hero. That's the only thing they're ever called. They don't even have canonical names. In Super Smash Bros., he's just called Hero because he doesn't have a different name. He's the hero. That's the whole thing. What do you mean he can't equip the legendary sword? Who is the hero? I knew spoilers for this game before I played it. I should have seen it coming. I didn't. It's in this moment that I realized what was actually happening. You may realize now as well. I'll wait until the game reveals it to say it myself, though. We know our quest now. Find the equipment, find the legendary hero, save our mother. Claus's quest is now aligned with his father's. He will do what his father could not. His father died to save his life. This is the least he could do. We go to the neighboring town, the town Bianca lives in, the town we met Punk. Punk isn't there, though. Bianca isn't either. She moved years ago. Harry wants to go to the castle. We go back with him, and he reunites with his family. Harry stays at the castle. Bianca is gone. Punk is gone. Pankraz is dead. Claus is alone. Well, not really, actually. See, remember when I said this game invented the monster catcher genre 4 years before Pokemon? That wasn't a joke, it did. Soon after escaping slavery, you get the ability to recruit monsters. Throughout Act 2 of the game, your party will be largely made up of monsters. At first, you'll have Harry, but when he leaves, you spend a good chunk of time with just these monsters that you've recruited. So how does monster recruitment work? Well, this is where we get to the first criticism I have of this game. Before I say my piece, I want to remind everyone and myself that this game came out in 1992. While I'm going to criticize this mechanic heavily, I'm actually a lot more apologetic toward it when I consider the time it was released. You could criticize the DS remake for not changing this mechanic or modernizing it at all, but I actually kind of appreciate faithful adaptations like this. That aside, here's how it works. There's a list of possible recruitable monsters. At first, this list is unknown to you. You won't know just from seeing a monster if you can recruit it or not. You'll get a book of monsters that gives you information on what's recruitable and how hard they are to recruit. But in practice, I only ever looked at this book twice. The actual mechanic of how to recruit a monster is simple. Every recruitable monster has a random chance of being recruited after they've been defeated in battle. Nothing you can do will alter this likelihood. You can't see a monster, decide you want it, and recruit it. If you decide you want to recruit a monster, you have to grind for encounters and defeat it every time you see it. This is terrible, because it's 2 dice rolls back to back. First, you're rolling to see if the random encounter even has the monster you want, then you're rolling to see if you actually recruit the monster or not. A rare monster might have a 1 in 64 chance of being recruited. This means realistically you'd expect to do several dozen fights against the same foe before recruiting it. And for the record, only the last recruitable monster in a battle that gets killed gets the roll. So if there's a fight with 3 of a monster you want, that isn't 3 separate rolls, it's just 1. On top of this, you're rolling for the encounter, and a monster that's rare might have a 1 in 10 chance of spawning. That's several encounters back to back that are wasted time as you wait for the monster you want. I didn't engage with this mechanic until the very end of the game, because none of this honestly interests me that much. I'll touch on it a little more in the later section, but when I did pick a monster I wanted and grinded to get it, I spent over 3 hours grinding in one area to get it. For reference, it took me 30 hours to beat the game. 10% of my playthrough was dedicated to catching a single monster. The only monster I decided I wanted to catch. The rolls for monster recruitment range from 1 in 2 all the way to 1 in 256. The monster I wanted to recruit had a 1 in 64 chance to be recruited, meaning while yes, it's a rare monster, it's far from the rarest. If you want to recruit a metal slime or a killing machine, I truly feel sorry for you. You could be faced with hundreds or even thousands of encounters before you get one. In my time playing Dragon Quest V, I only recruited 2 monsters with a 1 in 64 chance. One by coincidence while naturally playing, and the second through intentional grinding. The rest were mostly 1 and 2 or 1 and 4, with only 1 or 2 1 and 16s. That's kind of to be expected, though. As I said, I didn't engage with this mechanic much. All of my recruits were randomly acquired throughout the story. You may criticize me for not engaging with it further, but I honestly struggle to see how you're actually meant to engage with it. Am I meant to check my book of monsters every time I see a cool monster, see if it's recruitable, and if it is, grind until I get it? Am I meant to periodically, when I feel underpowered or just want a new ally, check the book and consider my options, then go and hunt them? I imagine the book exists so that players who want to do this have that option, but it seems to me the only way you'd expect this system to work would be by playing the game normally and recruiting monsters randomly as they come. It felt less like a monster catching game and more like a game where your party is semi-randomly generated. Interesting still, but not quite the same. Though I do think I'm being a bit harsh. Maybe what I see as obvious flaws are only obvious after I've experienced 2 decades of Pokemon and Shin Megami Tensei, games which doubtlessly wouldn't exist without Dragon Quest V. Dragon Quest V was innovative, not iterative. Both are valuable, but the innovation feels less impressive after you've experienced all the years of iteration. It feels lacking. I don't blame the game for this, but my goal today is give you my story playing Dragon Quest V, and disappointment with the monster-catching mechanics is part of that story. With his human companions gone and monsters at his side, Claus's time as an adventurer truly begins. He explores the world, finding new areas, new people, new items, all in search of the legendary equipment and the legendary hero who will be able to save his mom. During his quest, he hears of a village being tormented by a monster that constantly attacks them. Being the hero he is, Claus comes to the village's aid and goes to the monster's lair. To his surprise, he finds a great saber cat in the lair. A familiar great saber cat. It's Punk. Punk lunges at Claus, not recognizing him at first, but Claus produces a ribbon that once belonged to Bianca. She had given it to him when he left. He kept it 10 years later. Punk remembers. The boy and girl who saved him as a cub. Punk and Claus are reunited at last. When he returns to the villagers despise him, though, for siding with the monster. Claus doesn't mind. He's just happy to have his childhood friend back. It's here that I saw Claus for what he really was. An outcast. A man wandering the world alone with a wagon full of monsters. A lonely life. A tragic one. Having Punk back likely brought him comfort. Maybe it reminded him of Bianca. He hasn't seen her in 10 years. Soon after this, Claus enters a new town. Everyone is talking. There's a rich man in town who has a daughter that everyone wants to marry. Her name is Nira. Beautiful, kind, insanely wealthy. All the men in town are wild for her. Her father gathers the suitors in his estate. Curious, Claus joins them. The rich man announces that he has a quest for the suitors. Whoever finds the Ring of Water and the Ring of Fire will get his daughter's hand in marriage. Nira shows concern for the suitor's safety, but ultimately agrees she will marry whoever completes this task. Claus decides to accept the challenge. Maybe he was caught by Nira's beauty. Maybe he was excited at the prospect of the wealth marrying her would bring. Personally, I think he was lonely. Traveling without companions, reminded of the childhood he lost, thinking about the girl he went on an adventure with. Maybe if he married Nira, he could go on adventures with her. Maybe he would have someone by his side again. So Claus sets off to find the rings. During his quest, he stops by a little town in the river looking for someone to open the gate that's blocked his path. To his surprise, he finds Bianca in the town. Her family moved to this town years ago. When Bianca learns of Claus's quest, she joins him. She opens up the gate and helps him find the second of the rings. During their quest, the two catch up, making up for lost time. They tell each other what's happened in the last 10 years. They reminisce about old times. Both rings in hand, they return to the rich man. Bianca is supportive of Claus, wanting him to be happy and knowing Nira is a good woman. When he returns the rings to the rich man, though, Claus admits that he doesn't want the marriage. There's someone he loves more. Instead of marrying Nira, Claus confesses to Bianca. She's overjoyed. Nira's understanding, never having known Claus and seeing the love these two share. There's really no other choice. Well, except you do actually have a choice. How this moment actually plays out upon returning with the rings is Nira's father sees the hero with Bianca and inquires if the two have feelings for each other. You're given a night to think about it, which gives you the perfect chance to save in case you want to come back later. Dragon Quest V on the DS has 3 save slots. There are 3 choices for wives. Oh, right, I didn't mention Deborah. In the original game, the choice is between Bianca and Nira. In the DS, you get a third option, Deborah. She's Nira's sister. Yuji Horii, the creator of Dragon Quest, said she's someone nobody in their right mind would pick. I'm in my right mind. I didn't pick her. I know she's something of a fan favorite. I'm not sure if it's a she's so awful I love her situation, or if people really do just genuinely like her unironically. When you meet her, she's rude, belittling, dismissive. I've heard she grows on you and has a good character arc. I didn't marry her. I didn't marry her sister, Nira, either. While Nira seems nice, I just didn't know her. It's generally accepted Bianca is the canonical wife for the Dragon Quest V hero. She's on the cover of the box. Nira isn't. The hero's children's hair color changes depending on their mother. If you choose Nira, their hair is blue. Black if you choose Deborah. blonde if you choose Bianca. In all official art of the hero's children outside of the game, they have blonde hair. Who the canonical choice is doesn't really matter much to me though. As you might have noticed by how I'm telling you my experience with the game, I grew very invested in Klaz's journey. I made my decision based solely on who I believed he would want to marry. And the game tells you to pick Bianca. As a child, you go on an adventure with Bianca. Bianca helps you rescue the Saber Cup. After the time skip, one of the first things you do is return to the town you met Bianca in and learn she isn't there. After Harry gets married, crap, I forgot to mention Harry marries Maria earlier. That's okay, I'll touch on this later, but my retelling of this story isn't meant to be the most accurate. After Harry gets married, he mentions hoping you'll find a girl too. Seeing as Bianca's the only female character the hero's age that you've spent any amount of time with, you're likely to think of her in that moment. When you rescue the Saber Cat, you have to use Bianca's ribbon. The game reminds you of her and establishes that there's an importance to that bond. When you're questing for the rings, Bianca joins you. Your hero knows Bianca better than Nira or Deborah. You as a player know her better. At this point in the game, you wouldn't have even seen the character portraits for Nira or Deborah. All you'd have to go off of is their small sprites. In every way it can, the game communicates to you that you should marry Bianca. I mention this not because I have anything profound to say about it, but just because I noticed it. I don't know how I feel about that. I think in some ways it might be better to give the player a more unbiased option. Then again, maybe presenting one option is the obvious choice, but letting the player steer away is meant to be commentary on love. That you have someone you're destined for, and yet you can still go against that and be with someone else. I'm not sure if that's hopeful or depressing. It's interesting, though. Who you pick is up to you, and I don't really care much who the canon choice is, or who makes the most sense. Pick whoever you want. I do know, though, that I won't ever pick someone other than Bianca. As I've said many times, Klaz's journey really connected with me. To replay the game and have Klaz marry someone else feels to me the same as forcing someone to cheat on their wife against their will. The hero of Dragon Quest V is Klaz. Klaz married Bianca. That might not be true for you, but it's true for me. And even for the sake of researching for this video, I can't rewrite history. I cannot and will not replay the game to marry the other options and see how things are different. Typically, I save scum in games, and I'm not ashamed of it. I like to see what the other options were. I'm always happy to roll back and see how things could have been. For Dragon Quest V, I refuse. I think that says something about the game. For all my complaints about this game, this simple fact remains. I'm left with no choice but to have respect for Dragon Quest V for this accomplishment. Klaz marries Bianca. Nira's father's understanding and has grown to respect Klaz. He puts together their wedding. Nira is happy for Klaz. Klaz continues his quest, now with Bianca at his side. Nira's father gave Klaz a ship as a wedding gift, and so now the game opens up once more. You're able to explore the majority of the world now, and while there are hints pointing towards certain directions, you can really do what you want. While exploring, we learn that Pankraz was the king of a kingdom called Gotha. Klaz is the heir to the throne. Klaz and Bianca journey to the kingdom and are met by Klaz's uncle, King of Gotha. After Pankraz left with Klaz, the crown fell to his uncle. Klaz's uncle is a good man, though. He immediately tells Klaz he'll relinquish the throne. It was never his to begin with. He was simply keeping it warm for Klaz. Klaz is crowned king. Bianca gives birth to twins, a boy and a girl. I named them Grusty and Uni. The celebration doesn't last long, though. After giving birth, Bianca is kidnapped by monsters, just as happened to his mother many years ago. Klaz chases after to save her. He defeats the monsters that took her. Laja, the same evil wizard that killed Pankraz and sold Klaz into slavery, appears. He turns Klaz and Bianca into stone. Two brothers find them and take them, thinking they're statues. Klaz is bought by a man who wants a nice statue for his front yard. We don't see what happens to Bianca. Klaz is placed in the yard. We watch as the man who bought him has a child. We watch that child grow up. We don't get to watch Klaz's children grow up. We see the years pass, but can do nothing. This is the second time the game has completely surprised me. Before playing Dragon Quest V, I learned a few things about it. I knew that you would see the hero through childhood to adulthood. I knew the hero would have children who you could adventure with at the end of the game. I knew you could choose who to marry. I knew that Dragon Quest games were known for going in directions you don't expect. In Tim Rogers' review of Dragon Quest XI for Kotaku, he said the Dragon Quest games come with their own sequel. He was right. I knew all of this prior to starting the game. As each time skip approached, I could feel it coming. I still was surprised when Pankraz died, we lost our cat and were sold as slaves. What's truly magic about Dragon Quest V is that it played me for a fool twice, in the exact same way. When Bianca gave birth, I thought, here's where we'll have the time skip. Our kids will grow up and we'll train them. Then we'll go on an adventure together. Even as I was going through the dungeon to save Bianca, I still thought, we'll take her home to the kids and then have our time skip. But no. Klaz is never given a moment to breathe. He doesn't get to rest. His life is one tragedy after the next. He fails to save his wife. 10 more years are stolen from him. The first years of his children's life. Dragon Quest's story betrays its visual style and apparent tone. The games look cute and fun. The monsters are whimsical. There are a lot of jokes and the games feel very lighthearted like a fairy tale adventure, until they don't. The story of Dragon Quest V isn't particularly dark compared to other games in the genre. Sure, there are dark moments, but they're used to add weight to a shift in the narrative, a low point from which the hero can rise. In each low point in Dragon Quest V, I felt genuine sadness. I felt sorry for Klaz and what he's been made to go through. He has suffered real loss. 20 years of his life, his children's childhoods, his childhood, his father. By the time his children come to rescue him, they seem just older than he was when he lost his father. At that age, he lost his father. At that age, his children met theirs. Grusty and Uni had spent this whole time searching for their parents after Klaz never came back from his rescue mission. Uni uses magic to free him from his stone prison. A family reunited, but not fully. Their quest continues, now just searching for Bianca. When they join the party, the children are extremely weak. They're underleveled, and if you aren't careful, they can die quickly to strong enemies. It's Klaz's responsibility to keep them safe. Klaz is the father. He decides where to go, and his children are forced to go where he goes and do what he wants. He does most of the damage and fighting while they contribute insignificantly. After each battle, Klaz fully heals his children to ensure they're never in any real danger. Klaz is Pankraz. In many ways, this moment is the point of Dragon Quest V. You may have once resented Pankraz for controlling you and babying you. You may have thought that you didn't need him. You may have wondered why he healed you fully after every battle, even if you weren't that hurt. But now you have children. You see how fragile they are. You see how if you look away for even a second, they'll die. You heal them, even if they aren't that hurt, because you know better than to risk it. You are Pankraz. During this journey, we learn that Grusty, Klaz's son, is the legendary hero. He can wield the legendary sword. He can don the legendary armor. He is the hero. Dragon Quest V tells us that we aren't important. We are here only to pass on what we have and what we know to the next generation. They are the ones that are important. We get this mixed up because as children, we're the next generation. We are important. But time marches forward. Years are ripped away from us. We see the world change faster than we thought it could, sometimes in ways we don't like. We succumb to time, and leave what was once ours to those that will still be. We trust that they'll do the same. That is life. Pankraz gives his life to ensure his son will carry on. In his death, he gives Klaz the knowledge of his quest, that his mother is still alive, that the legendary hero is the only one who can save her. He gives Klaz the legendary sword. He couldn't achieve what he wanted in his life. He trusts that Klaz will. Klaz passes this gift to his child. In this way, his child is important. He is the one that will save the world, but once the world is safe, his job is done. He will succumb to time all the same. He'll pass his knowledge on. He'll pass down the world he once saved and the tools he used to save it. He'll hope that those yet to come will find use with it. This is beautiful. Sadly, the game's mechanics betray its very narrative. See, you know how I said you have to protect your kids so they don't die? How you'll have to keep them safe? That this is where the lesson truly kicks in? The thing is, you actually don't have to do that. Dragon Quest V is a monster-catching game, remember? And the monsters are actually often better than the human characters. Undoubtedly, there are players out there who saw how weak the kids were and thought, oh, I'll just swap them out for monsters until they level up. Maybe they swap the kids back in once they've leveled up, and realize that the monsters were actually doing better. Maybe they put the monsters back in. These players miss the most poignant thing that Dragon Quest V has to say. I don't say this as an indictment on those players. They were enjoying the game the way they wanted. I blame Dragon Quest V for letting them. I don't think video games should allow for broad forms of playstyles like this. Not as a general rule, at least. There are certainly times in which games do this and succeed. Player agency should be a tool that's used sparingly and wisely, though. I suspect this is the most controversial thing I've said in this video. Maybe I'll do another video elaborating on my thoughts on this. We can leave that for another day. As you adventure with your kids, the world opens up entirely. You can go anywhere and do anything. This is when I started to get frustrated with Dragon Quest V. I haven't yet touched on the mechanics much. It's a standard JRPG with turn-based battles. The battles are enjoyable. The battles also happen by means of random encounters. I loathe random encounters, but I give Dragon Quest V a pass because it was 1992. We used to put lead in paint and mercury in thermometers. We used to put random encounters in JRPGs. I can't fault the game for lacking knowledge it had yet to gain. The problem comes in Dragon Quest V encouraging exploration. You aren't meant to make a beeline from one place to the next, you're meant to take your time and explore. Take in the world, go where you want, find new things. This is largely fine, but in the final act of the game, Dragon Quest V removes the training wheels. I didn't know they were on to begin with, but I soon found out. It stops telling you where to go. It assumes you know. You've explored 90% of the world at this point. Go to the other 10. You saw places you couldn't go. Go back and try again. Maybe this is a fault of mine, but I couldn't for the life of me figure out where to go. I try to avoid using outside information in a game unless it feels as though the game wants me to. In the final act of Dragon Quest V, I lost count of the number of times I had to look up where to go. I view each time as a failing. Whether that failure lies with me or with the game is up to debate, and I'm not even entirely sure myself, but it's a failure nonetheless. In addition to this, I tended not to explore throughout the earlier acts of the game. I knew where the game wanted me to go, and I would just go there. I think in a lot of ways I played the game in a way it didn't expect or want me to. The result of this was that I was severely underleveled, and it only got worse as the game progressed. Strangely, I never felt underleveled. I never hit a serious roadblock in difficulty. Bosses were often pretty hard. I had to think through strategies and try multiple times. Dungeons were dangerous and draining. It was often a struggle to get through it without needing to leave to heal. I thought Dragon Quest V was just a hard game. I later realized I was just underleveled. Strangely, I think this made me enjoy the game more, though. The game felt really well balanced, like it was always pushing me to my limit. I think if I played the game properly, maybe I would have enjoyed it less. Maybe I was wrong when I said the game shouldn't allow for a variety of playstyles. If this game didn't let me play it the way that I did, would I still feel the same way about it? Am I just foolishly proclaiming my own preferred playstyle as the best and ignoring the others? Yeah, maybe. But that's a topic for another time. Claes and his children travel to all points of the world searching for Bianca. They visit Claes' mother's birthplace. They find the legendary city of Zenithia. Eventually, they're reunited with Bianca. I'm remiss to say that due to my frustration with the game, it's at this third act that I disconnected from the story. I stopped feeling like Claes. I felt like a chimp who didn't know what button to press to get the peanuts. Claes and his children save Bianca, a family reunited. Finally, they can complete the quest they started long ago. The quest passed down from Pancras to Grusty, to save Pancras' wife, Claes' mother, Grusty's grandmother. She's being kept in another dimension. We travel there and find Laja, the evil wizard who stole years from us, who stole our childhood, our children, our wife, our father, our mother. The final enemy we must defeat before we earn a rest. The fight is hard, but Claes and his family come out on top, but not before his mother is killed. Claes kills Laja, but his mother still dies. We don't even have time to mourn her death before we must stop the real, greater evil. A Dark Lord threatens the world, Laja's master, the reason he took everything from us. We can't get it back, but we can at least make sure that he's stopped. Make sure he doesn't take anything from anyone again. Claes reaches the end of the dungeon and sees the doors through which the final foe stands. I look at my party. Half of them are dead, the other half have little magic and less health. I know I can't beat him. I try anyways, and I fail. I wonder if I missed a resting point. In long dungeons, you may get a breather, a moment of respite which allows you to heal so you can continue. I wondered if there was a way I could leave and teleport back. I just needed to heal, then I could do it. I searched online, another failing, and I didn't even find what I was looking for. Instead, I notice a comment on an old thread suggesting a level for the final boss. I'm 10 levels below that. I look at other comments. They say similar things. No one challenges this recommended level. I'm left with a difficult choice. Grind and gain levels or go through the dungeon again right away and try to get there with more resources. A third option pops into my mind. I could just stop. I hate random encounters. Dragon Quest XI doesn't have them. I love costumes. Dragon Quest XI has those. I've been wanting to play Dragon Quest XI. I could just stop here. I've basically beaten it anyways, right? Just one boss left. I could just move on to play the game that I want to play. I chose to grind. I've been given this choice many times in games before. It's the reason I never beat Final Fantasy X as a kid. I never got to Disc 2 of Final Fantasy VIII. I've lost track of how many games I've stopped because I got bored. Something you need to know about me is that I'll always drop a game when I'm bored. No sunk cost fallacy, no concern over how long I've put into it. No thought of, well, maybe it gets good later. It took me 3 years to beat Persona 5 because I kept dropping it, and I only ended up beating it because one of my friends spent an entire year convincing me. I never dropped Dragon Quest V. I played it every day until I beat it. While frustrated with the final act, while faced with grinding, while tempted with a newer, shinier game, I pressed on. Why? Why did Dragon Quest V keep my attention, even through the parts I liked the least while so many others failed? I don't have an answer for you. The lack of an answer to this question is why I'm making this video. Something in Dragon Quest V enchanted me in a way I haven't seen. I don't have time to review every JRPG, but when I say that Dragon Quest V is every JRPG, I mean it. The lovable cast, the exciting music, the charming presentation, the captivating story, but also the dull moments, the confusing design choices, the loathsome random encounters, the directionless exploration. It's all here in full display, but the good outweighs the bad, and I powered through. I chose to grind. When I was seeing recommended levels, I also saw recommended monsters, a King Cure Slime, and golems. I decided to get one good monster before I grinded. I went to where King Cure Slimes are found, and 3 hours later I had one. By chance, I had gotten a golem too. An hour of grinding later, and I was just below the recommended level. I went back and the final boss was easy. I beat him on my first attempt. Part of me regretted grinding. Maybe I would have enjoyed the challenge more. But at the same time, I found the hunt for the monster and the grinding a bit relaxing. Frustrating at times, sure, but I just turned on a stream and pressed the A button. Maybe I'm too harsh on grinding in games. Or maybe I'm right and I would have enjoyed the final fight more if I had just spent all of my money on healing items so I could get to the final boss fully healed, and just keep trying. I'll never know. Klaz and his family defeat the Dark Lord. The world is saved. Klaz returns to Gotha as king, family at his side. After all these years, he finally gets his moment of rest. This was my experience with Dragon Quest V. Yours is likely different. This wasn't a comprehensive retelling of the story. If you want that, you should just play the game. I left out parts of the story that didn't interest me. I left out parts that didn't stick with me. I left out parts I simply forgot. I never set out to tell you every story beat. I wanted to tell you what mattered to me. Dragon Quest V is a game that impacted me in ways I didn't expect. I engaged with it in ways I don't normally engage with games. There were many times in this video I mentioned how it made me do something I normally wouldn't, how it altered the way I thought about things, how it pulled me into the world and characters. By the end of the game, I was tired and frustrated, yet the more time I have to reflect on this experience, the more special it feels. I can't help but wonder what my opinion on this game would have been if I had played it as a child. If I got this game on my DS when I was 14, I don't think I'd have been so critical of some aspects. I find myself wishing I could have that experience. Even still, playing this game today has left a profound impression on me. Thank you for letting me share my journey through Dragon Quest V with you. Thank you for letting me tell you about Klaz's journey. Thank you for watching this video.